I think what I was doing was just had my radar up and was just being right underneath the sound, right inside of the sound, and not, forcing anything, and just trying to, I guess, ride the ship.
That was Tom Zera of the Utah Symphony, and he's talking about his experience playing in the Cleveland Orchestra as a guest bassist in that clip. I'm Jason Heath. This is Contrabass Conversations, and we are doing a couple more best of episodes to round out 2018 and get into 2019. You're going to be hearing from 5 artists today. So we have Tom, but then we also are going to start off with Susan Wulff of the San Diego Symphony, Todd Coolman, interestingly enough, talking about playing in an orchestra section, and then Michael Hovnanian, my former bass teacher from Northwestern University, Chicago Symphony section bassist. Then we have Brent Edmondson, who has subbed for many years in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we rounded out with this conversation clip with Tom Zera. So thank you so much to Krista Copper for making these all possible and going through and cataloging these, and thank you to our sponsors. Quick shout out to Steve Swan String Bass, Colstein Music, The Bass Violin Shop, D'Addario Strings, and Upton Bass. More on them in full-length episodes. Definitely check out past episodes to learn more about them, and go check out our show notes, too. We'll launch this one off with Susan Wulff of the San Diego Symphony, and she's talking about how she just really enjoys having a job, a full-time job like the San Diego Symphony.
I love having a job. I love the fact that I have a schedule up front, and I know what we're going to play. I love my section. My section is filled with people that I really enjoy spending time with and making music with. We're all very respectful to each other, and it's a loving environment. Like, we're a family. I feel fortunate because not every orchestra is that way, but ours is very much that way. And I'm really happy that it is, because it makes going to work very pleasant and enjoyable. And if I'm having a bad day, I go to work and my bad day turns around.
Next up, we've got Todd Coolman, followed by Michael Hovnanian. Todd, this was not done. These are both deep into the archives, by the way. They're 10 years plus at this point. Todd's conversation was done not with me, but with Win Hinkle. So that's who's talking to Todd in this conversation. And then Michael, this is one of the early ones. I think I had mics from I don't even know where. So if the sound quality is a little wonky on that, apologies to Michael. I just had super bad gear, but still good content. So here's Todd and Michael.
Believe it or not, I guess there was a guy in the bass section in Chicago whose real interest was not in the orchestra and not in the bass section. But his real interest, he was an accomplished organist as well. And so he couldn't wait until rehearsal was over so that he could go home and play some Bach partitas. So his attitude intrigued me, because here was a guy in maybe the finest orchestra in the world, the most coveted job, and completely detached. And it was a downer for the section. But there was nothing they could really do about it.
Yeah, and smaller orchestras, I've seen bassists do that. I mean, some people that...
You just wonder, you scratch your head. So, I don't know, something about that hit me. And I thought, well, in a jazz group, for most part, you're the only bass player in the band, and as a result, you have all of the responsibility. With the luxury goes the responsibility. So if the bass section doesn't sound good, they're going to look at you. Or vice versa. And I like the idea of not necessarily being in a section of 8 or 9 bass players, and in a way, those section work can be enormously rewarding with the right people, but it can also be a little bit like an assembly line where your product is only as good as the slowest guy or the worst guy. And if you happen to have a couple people in there that don't have the commitment or the sense of teamwork or a common goal, it can really be enormously challenging.
It's almost like you have to curb your enthusiasm a little bit. I mean, maybe that's not the best way to put it, but it's because taking an audition is such a singular pursuit, kind of, and you're really just focused on this one thing, and everything has to be right, and I've got to do this and this and that and the other thing under pressure and right now, and you can't look at anything else that's going on around you. Whereas that's not the way. You can't be that way in an orchestra, and get along. You really have to blend in. You may not like what the people around you are doing, or it might be they come from a totally different playing background. So all of a sudden you have to be really flexible and just and sort of giving and blending, which is kind of not what you do at all to win an audition. I think it's almost the exact opposite. So I mean, most of the things are sort of common sense. Just be a good person, and don't be a jerk. But also, don't be a jerk as a player either. Play louder or ahead, behind, whatever. It's really all about fitting in with the people you're working with. One of the different things about coming into like a situation like San Antonio, you could sort of come into an orchestra like that and be sort of a big shot or something, because it's like, oh, well, you're the finals of the CSO and, or whatever. Well, once you come into the CSO, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. It doesn't matter really who you are. Everybody else there has been there for like 20 years and they know how it goes, and you're not going to show them anything they haven't seen before. And I think people who come in and try and, impress other people around them have a tough time. And, the thing is just to fit in, and be a good citizen and not try and rock the boat all at once. It's like, yeah, you can contribute and try and change things, but not too radically, or you can't just sort of go in and throw your weight around. Certainly as a section player.
We'll round out this episode with Brent Edmondson, who's been subbing in the Philadelphia Orchestra for many years, talking about that experience, and then Tom Zera.
I remember one day I was interviewing Bob Oppelt, who's the principal of the National Symphony, and I was playing with the Philadelphia Orchestra that week, and sort of insecure about my role there. I had just started subbing there, and I asked Bob about how he likes a sub to fit into his section and what he's looking for them to do and bring to the table, because as a substitute, you're not really going to bring the same sorts of energies and the same sorts of precision as the normal section player. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, I'm really looking for somebody to blend to their stand partner as absolutely as possible. And so I went to work that day and I did it, and it was obvious. It was very obvious to everybody, and everybody was really, like, there were more smiles in the section. Everybody's excited. That kind of changed a little bit how I look at my playing career. Yeah. And it was just that one little explanation made all the difference.
What should somebody do to prepare themselves, and how should they conduct themselves? How do they fit in as a guest in a high-level bass section?
That's a great question. I haven't thought about that. How was I not terrified going onto Severance Hall stage? I think I was terrified, actually. One thing that helped in Cleveland was that everyone was so friendly and so warm. The management, the bass players. I think what I did there, if I remember correctly, was really to hang back, really not to be just to have my radar up and 360 degrees, just to hear everything of where I was and to fit into what was happening. Whether I was right behind the tuba, I think I was in the back of the section near the wall, and I had very good bass information to my left and in front. And I think what I was doing was just had my radar up and was just being right underneath the sound, right inside of the sound, and not, forcing anything, and just trying to, I guess, ride the ship, so to speak. Yeah. I think that's how I felt. And it wasn't long before I felt like I could be a contributing member of that section, that I could, and I think it was their general nurturing quality of everybody in the section. And I think that helped bring me along there.
That's going to do it for this best of episode. Thank you so much to Krista Copper for going through and cataloging and organizing all these topics. It makes these sort of episodes possible, and I think it's a really cool direction. Thank you also to everybody else involved in Contrabass Conversations. Steve Hinchy, Michael Cooper, our audio editors, Mitch Mooring, who puts these episodes together, and Trevor Jones, who publishes and promotes all of these. Thank you so much. Reach out to me at feedback@contrabassconversations.com. And I am your host, Jason Heath. We'll be back soon with more life on the low end of the spectrum.